AITA for not wanting kids because of my illness? My name is James Turner, and I'm 24 years old. I grew up in a small town in Oregon, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where people wave at each other on the road, and the biggest excitement in town is when a new coffee shop opens. Life there has always been quiet and predictable, or at least it used to be. My mother, Julie, has been sick for most of my adult life. For years, no one could figure out what was wrong. It started small, just fatigue, then dizzy spells, then longer hospital visits that left her weaker every time she came home. I remember one Christmas when she fainted while trying to cook dinner, and I had to carry her to the couch. She laughed it off and said she was fine, but I saw the fear in her eyes. That was the first time I realized something was deeply wrong. It took years for doctors to find answers. Test after test, hospital after hospital, all saying the same thing. We're not sure yet, but we'll keep looking. And then, last winter, we finally got a diagnosis. A rare, degenerative illness that slowly damages vital organs over time. It's something that runs in our family, passed down silently from generation to generation, hiding in the blood like a secret waiting to reveal itself. When the doctor told us it was genetic, I remember feeling cold all over. He explained that I had a 50% chance of carrying the same condition. I tried to smile, tried to act calm for Mom's sake, but my stomach twisted like it was filled with knots. That night, I sat in my car outside the clinic for nearly an hour, staring at the steering wheel, unable to move. A few weeks later, my test results came back. I still remember the doctor's voice on the phone, steady but heavy, telling me I carried it too. I didn't even say anything at first. I just nodded, even though he couldn't see me. My version, apparently, is milder. There are medications that might slow it down, but hearing that didn't comfort me, because mild still means real. It means forever. It means I carry the same thing that's destroying my mother, and one day, it could destroy me too. That night, I drove to the ocean, the place I used to go when I was a kid and needed to think. I stood there, the waves cold and sharp against the wind, and I kept thinking about the future I always pictured. I used to imagine myself with a wife, kids, maybe a small dog running through the yard. Now, that image felt like it belonged to someone else's life. My girlfriend, Dylan, and I have been together since college. We met during our second year. She was studying early childhood education, and I was working part-time in the library. She was quiet but kind, the kind of person who notices when someone's sad even if they're pretending not to be. We talked for hours that first night, sitting on the campus steps under a flickering streetlight. I remember thinking I could love this girl forever, and I did. We built plans, big ones. We talked about traveling, buying a little house near the coast, getting a golden retriever. We even had baby names picked out, ones we laughed about because she said I always chose old man names. But lately, I can't think about any of that without feeling sick. I've watched what my mom goes through every day. The pain, the constant exhaustion, the medication schedules that control her whole routine. I see the way she hides her fear behind jokes, the way she smiles for me even when she can barely stand. I know she doesn't want me to see how bad it gets, but I do. Every time she's too weak to get out of bed, every time she drops a cup because her hands shake too much, I see all of it. A few nights ago, Dylan and I were sitting in the living room, watching a movie. She reached over and rested her head on my shoulder, and for a while, everything felt normal. But my mind wouldn't stop running. I kept imagining her holding our child, and then imagining that child getting older, then sick, then going through the same thing I'm watching my mom endure. Out of nowhere, I said, Dylan, I don't think I want to have kids anymore. She looked up at me, confused. What? You've always wanted to be a dad. I know, I said quietly, but things are different now. She paused the movie. The silence between us stretched for what felt like forever. Finally, she asked, is this about your mom's illness? I nodded. I couldn't look at her. I just said, I don't want to pass it on. I don't want to do that to anyone. She didn't speak right away. Then she said softly, James, you can't let fear decide your whole future. It's not just fear, I told her. It's guilt. I couldn't live with myself if I gave a child the same thing that's slowly taking my mom away. She took my hand. There are options, tests, screenings. You're not your mother. This doesn't have to mean the end of everything. But I couldn't agree. My chest felt heavy, my throat tight. You don't understand, Dylan. Watching her go through this, I can't do that to someone else. I won't. We didn't talk for the rest of the night. She slept on the couch. The next morning, she barely looked at me when she left for work. Later that evening, my mom called. She said Dylan had told her what I'd said. Her voice trembled when she asked, James, is it true? You don't want to have kids anymore. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, staring at the wall. Finally, she whispered, don't let this illness take away more than it already has. You deserve to live, to love, to build a family. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that it was too risky, but I couldn't. She's been fighting for years just to stay alive. She doesn't want her illness to take away my hope, too, but it already has. I'm scared I'll end up like her, sick in my 40s, unable to work, unable to walk, unable to see my kids grow up. And I'm scared that if I refuse to have children, I'll break her heart, because all she's ever wanted was to see see me build a life, to give her grandkids to hold, to see that the sacrifices she made were worth it. For the last few weeks, things between Dylan and me have been tense. We argue more than we ever used to. She says I'm pushing her away, that I'm letting fear win. I tell her she doesn't understand the weight of knowing something like this lives inside you. She cries a lot lately. I pretend not to notice, but I do. One night, she shouted, "You're not the only one scared, James. You think I don't lie awake wondering what'll happen to you? You think I don't feel helpless watching you give up?" I didn't know how to answer, so I just walked out. I drove around town for hours, thinking about how love can feel so strong and fragile at the same time. When I came home, she was asleep on the couch again. I stood there for a long time, just watching her breathe. I thought about how much I love her, and how much it hurts to know I might not be able to give her the future she deserves. The next morning, I visited my mom. She was sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, sipping tea. She smiled when she saw me. "Rough night?" she asked. "Something like that," I said, sitting beside her. We didn't talk for a while, just sat there, listening to the wind move through the trees. Then she said quietly, "You remind me so much of your father, always trying to protect everyone but yourself." I looked down at my hands. "Maybe I'm just trying not to hurt anyone." "James," she said gently, "sometimes the way we try to protect people ends up hurting them more." I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but I knew she wasn't. It's been 4 months since I wrote that post, and honestly, it feels like 4 years. Everything that's happened since then has changed how I see almost everything. Myself, my family, and what it really means to keep going when you don't know how much time you have left. After I shared my story, I started therapy. At first, I went because I didn't know what else to do. Every day felt like I was carrying this invisible weight. Fear, guilt, and confusion all tangled together. The therapist, a quiet woman named Dr. Keller, helped me start untangling it piece by piece. She told me something during our first session that stuck with me. You can grieve for the life you thought you'd have and still find meaning in the one you do. At first, I didn't understand what she meant, but as the weeks went by, it started to make sense. Meanwhile, things with Dylan were still difficult. She stayed with me, which I didn't expect. There were days when I thought she'd pack up and leave because I wasn't the same person anymore. I used to be easygoing, the guy who always found the bright side. But lately, I've been quiet, withdrawn. She says I stare off sometimes, like I'm not really there. Maybe she's right. We try to have normal days, walks by the river, watching movies, cooking dinner together. But the normal moments never lasted. Every conversation somehow came back to the illness. It hung between us like a shadow that refused to leave. One night, we were sitting in the car outside her apartment after dinner. She turned to me and said, "James, do you still love me?" Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Of course I do," I said. "Why would you even ask that?" She looked down at her lap. "Because sometimes it feels like you're already saying goodbye." That sentence hit me like a punch. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I was fighting, that I was still here, but part of me knew she was right. I had been pulling away without realizing it. It's hard to stay close when every future you imagine ends in uncertainty. A few weeks later, my younger sister Celine got her genetic results. She doesn't carry the illness. When she told me, she was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her words. "James, I don't know why it's you and not me," she kept repeating. I tried to tell her it wasn't her fault, but after I hung up, I sat in my car and cried too. It was a strange kind of pain, being happy for her, but feeling the quiet ache of unfairness in my chest. I'm her older brother. I was supposed to protect her from pain, not take it on myself. Not long after, things with my mom got worse. She had a severe episode, the worst one yet. I found her collapsed in the kitchen, the phone still in her hand. The ambulance lights flashed red across the front porch as they carried her out. I remember Dylan gripping my arm, whispering, "She's going to be okay," but her voice didn't sound like she believed it. Mom was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I stayed there every night, sleeping in a stiff chair by her bed. I learned the rhythm of the machines by heart, the steady beeping, the low hum of oxygen, the distant sound of other patients in the hallways. One night, when the room was dim and the nurses had gone, she woke up and reached for my hand. Her skin felt cold, her fingers thin and trembling. She looked at me and said, "James, don't let my story be the end of your hope. Life doesn't have to look the way you planned it, but it still has to be lived." I tried to hold it together, but the tears came anyway. I told her, "Mom, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can pretend everything's fine when it's not." She smiled weakly. "You don't have to pretend. You just have to keep trying." When she finally came home, she wasn't the same. She's weaker now, slower. Some days she barely eats, but she still tries to smile when I visit, still asks about Dylan, still tells me to live. Around that same time, Dylan and I had our biggest fight yet. She came over one evening with takeout, trying to lighten the mood. But when she saw the unopened pill bottles on my counter, her face changed. "You haven't been taking your medication," she said quietly. I tried to brush it off. "It makes me tired. I'll start again soon." Her voice rose. "James, you can't just stop because it's inconvenient. You think your mom's still fighting this hard, so you can just give up?" I snapped back, louder than I meant to. "I'm not giving up. I'm just tired, scared, Adeline. I'm tired of living every day like I'm broken already. She went silent, eyes glistening. You're not broken. You're scared, and that's okay. But if you keep pushing everyone away, one day there won't be anyone left to come back. Then she left. The sound of the door closing felt heavier than any word she said. We didn't talk for 2 weeks after that. During that time, I spent most of my days with my mom and sister. Celine started visiting more too, maybe because she felt guilty for being healthy. She'd bring soup, help with chores, and sometimes just sit beside Mom, reading aloud from her favorite old books. One evening, I caught Mom looking at us, me, Adeline's empty chair, and Celine reading softly, and I saw a tear slide down her cheek. She whispered, "Promise me you'll find your way, James, even when I'm gone." I couldn't promise. I just held her hand. A week later, Adeline texted me. She asked if I wanted to meet at the park near the old library, the place where we first met in college. I hesitated for a long time before saying yes. When I got there, she was sitting on a bench under a big oak tree. The sun was setting, and the light made her hair glow gold. She looked at me and said, "I've been thinking. I don't want to keep fighting you. I just want to fight with you. Whatever happens, we face it together." I didn't say anything at first. Then I sat beside her, and for the first time in months, I let myself breathe. We talked for hours about fear, about love, about how life doesn't always turn out fair, but can still be worth living. She told me she didn't care if we ever had kids. She just wanted a life with me, however long that might be. That night, I went home feeling lighter than I had in a long time. It's been a few weeks since then. Things are still hard. Mom's condition is unpredictable. Some days are good, others are frightening. I still go to therapy. I still struggle, but I'm trying, really trying, to hold on to the good moments, even when they're small. James is not the AITA. He's not being cold, selfish, or cruel. He's just scared in a way that makes total sense. The guy found out he's carrying the same illness that's wrecking his mom's life. That's not something you can just shrug off and say, we'll figure it out. It's heavy. And his choice not to have kids isn't about giving up. It's about not wanting to pass that pain forward. That's not mean. That's thoughtful. Sure, Adeline's hurt. She had dreams, family, kids, the whole cozy picture. She's not wrong to feel heartbroken, but her hurt doesn't make him wrong either. They're both right in their own ways, just stuck in a situation with no perfect answer. It's like they're playing a game where every move hurts someone, and James picked the option that hurts him the most instead of someone else. That's not selfish. That's kind of selfless. Now, yeah, he could have handled a few moments better, maybe talk more instead of shutting down. But come on, the guy's dealing with a lifetime of fear and guilt. He's doing therapy. He's trying to process, and he's not out there blaming anyone. That's effort. If we're tossing in a bit of joke, the man's carrying emotional luggage heavier than most people's check bags at the airport, and he's still trying to walk upright. That alone earns him a little grace. So yeah, final. James is not the AITA. He's just a decent dude trying to do the right thing when the right thing hurts. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments. AITA for not trusting my friend to care for my dog while I moved out. My name is Emiliana, and for almost a year, I shared a small house with my best friend, Leah. We had known each other since high school, and though our friendship had its rough edges, we always found a way to make things work. Leah liked things in order, quiet mornings, clean counters, everything folded neatly. I was the opposite. I was forgetful sometimes, left coffee cups on the table, and didn't always fold the laundry right away. Still, we balanced each other out. At least, I thought we did. When I told Leah that I planned to move in with my boyfriend, Adon, she didn't seem surprised, but there was something different in her face, something tight behind her smile. She said she was happy for me, but her voice didn't sound happy. Maybe it was because she knew things between us would change, or maybe because she had gotten used to me being there. I didn't push it. I was excited to start this new chapter. The problem was, the place Adon and I found wasn't ready yet. The yard fence needed repairs, and I couldn't bring Odin, my dog, until it was safe. Odin was only a year old, playful and full of energy, but he was still recovering from a stomach infection. He had to take medicine twice a day, morning and evening, or his condition could get worse quickly. I didn't have many options. My grandmother was dealing with her own health problems, and Aiden's work schedule made it impossible for him to watch Odin during the day. Leah was my only real choice. When I asked her, she agreed right away. She said she'd take care of him like he was her own. I believed her. I really did. Before leaving, I made sure she had everything she could possibly need. His food, his medicine, instructions written on a notepad, even his favorite blanket. I walked her through the routine twice. She nodded, half listening, scrolling on her phone, but I tried not to think too much of it. The first day away went fine. I texted her in the evening to check in, and she said Odin was doing great. Her message was short, but I figured she was busy. The next day, she didn't text at all, which was unusual for her. Then, that night, I got a message. Sorry, can't talk now. Going out with Meredith tonight. Meredith was her new boyfriend. I'd met him once. Quiet guy, nice enough, but I could tell he was the kind of person who didn't like animals much. That message made me uneasy, but I pushed it aside. I didn't want to be the overbearing friend who couldn't let go of control. The following morning, I was painting the living room wall at Aiden's place when my phone buzzed again. It was from my old neighbor, Oakley, who lived across the street from our old house. "Hey, Em, sorry to bother you, but I heard Odin whining for a long time this morning. Is everything okay with him?" My stomach twisted. Oakley was kind, but she wasn't the type to exaggerate. I tried calling Leah immediately, but she didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. Then finally, she texted back, almost an hour later. "He's fine. I checked on him before work." It didn't sit right. Odin was the kind of dog who only whined when something was wrong. I asked if she had given him his medicine. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, came back, then finally. "Didn't have time. He looked okay though." I froze. Didn't have time? It wasn't optional. Odin needed that medicine every 12 hours. I could already feel the panic rising. I told her calmly that he had to take it right away, and if she couldn't manage, I'd have someone else handle it. That's when she snapped. "Emilina, you act like I'm incapable of doing anything right. I have a life too, you know." I said he's fine. I took a deep breath and typed back slowly. "Leah, it's not about capability. It's about Odin's health. He's sick. I just need to make sure he's okay." She didn't respond right away. When she finally did, the message was long, much longer than any she'd ever sent me before. She said she was tired of feeling like I didn't trust her, that I made her feel like a babysitter, not a friend. She said I was too attached to that dog and that I always acted like I knew better. Then came the photo. It was a picture of the living room floor. There was a mess. Odin had had an accident. And under the picture, she wrote, "See, he's not as easy as you think. Maybe you should train him better before blaming me." I stared at the screen for a long time. My throat felt tight. I didn't even want to argue anymore. I just called my cousin Meredith, explained everything, and asked if she could pick Odin up the next morning. She said yes immediately. The next morning came, and Meredith called me from the driveway. "Em, she's not here," she said. "Her car's gone." Of course it was. Leah had gone out again. Meredith got in through the side gate and found Odin lying in the corner of the yard, barely lifting his head. He was shaking, thirsty, and so weak that he couldn't stand without wobbling. I felt sick. We took him straight to the vet. I remember sitting there in that cold waiting room, staring at the clock, feeling guilt crawl up my spine. The vet said Odin was dehydrated and that the infection had started to flare again because of missed doses. They put him on fluids, gave him more medicine, and told me it was a close call, but he'd recover. When we got home that night, I sat on the floor next to him as he slept, one paw resting on my leg. That's when the sadness hit me, not just because Odin had suffered, but because I realized I couldn't trust Leah anymore. Still, I didn't want to make things uglier than they already were. I texted her one last time. "Thank you for helping when you could, but I'll handle things from here." She read it almost immediately. I saw the little read notification appear, but she didn't reply. 2 days later, she finally did. Her message said, "I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of this. I did the best I could. If you think I'm a bad person, fine." I didn't answer. Adon told me to leave it alone, but the silence between us started to eat at me. The next day, I went back to the house to get the last of my things. Leah was there this time. I could feel the tension before I even opened the door. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, acting like nothing had happened. I tried to keep my voice calm. "Leah, we need to talk." She didn't look up. "If it's about the dog, I don't want to hear it." I walked closer. "He got sick again, Leah. He was shaking when Meredith found him. You were supposed to give him his medicine." Her eyes finally lifted, sharp and defensive. "I made a mistake, Emilina. Do you ever think that maybe I have things going on too?" "What things?" I asked. My voice wasn't angry. It was tired. She stood up suddenly. "You think you're perfect. You think you're better than me because you have Adon and your new place and your perfect little plans. You left me here with everything to take care of." "Everything." I almost laughed, but my chest hurt too much for it. "I left you a dog and rent money for the month. That's it. You chose to take care of him. You said you wanted to help." She crossed her arms, eyes shining with something between anger and hurt. "You know what? Maybe I shouldn't have. You never see how hard I try. You only see what I don't do." The room went quiet. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. There was so much I wanted to say, but none of it would fix anything. I realized then that this wasn't really about Odin or even about me moving out. Leah had been struggling long before this. She just didn't know how to say it. I didn't fight back. I just said, "I wish things were different." Then I took the last of my boxes and left. When I got back to Aiden's house, he was waiting on the porch, holding Odin's leash. The sight of that dog standing there, tail wagging, made me cry for the first time in days. It's been about 2 weeks since I last spoke to Leah. I didn't plan to reach out again. Honestly, I thought I was done with all of it. The tension, the guilt, the quiet anger that sat heavy in my chest every time I thought about what happened. But last night, around 9:30, my phone lit up. It was a message from her. "Hey, can we talk? I want to clear the air." I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to protect whatever peace I had managed to rebuild. But another part of me, the part that still missed her laugh, still remembered how close we once were, couldn't ignore her. So I called. When she answered, her voice was quiet, tired, like she'd been crying. I said her name softly, and she sighed before saying, "Emilina, I just need to say this." At first, she sounded calm. She told me she was sorry sorry for not being perfect, that she knew she'd messed up, and that she wished things had gone differently. I could tell she was trying. But then, almost like something inside her snapped, her tone shifted. You made me feel like I wasn't good enough for anything, Emiliana. You always acted like you had everything figured out, like you were the one who did everything right. Her words hit me harder than I expected. My throat went dry. I tried to explain that I never meant to make her feel that way, that I was just worried about Odin, not trying to control her. But the more I spoke, the quieter she got. Then, she suddenly said, "You didn't trust me. You never did. You just used me until you didn't need me anymore." That wasn't true. Not even close. I told her that I had trusted her. That's why I left Odin with her, even when I was nervous about it. But she only laughed, a soft, bitter laugh that didn't sound like her at all. "No, you trusted that I'd clean up your messes. You always have." I didn't know what to say to that. For a few seconds, all I could hear was her breathing, uneven, shaky. Then she started talking faster, her words tumbling over each other. She said her relationship with Meredith had ended, that he'd moved out without saying goodbye. She said she couldn't sleep in that house anymore because everything reminded her of me. The couch we used to sit on, the old blanket I left behind, even the spot where Odin's bowl used to be. "It's like you're still here," she said, "but you're not, and I hate it." Something about that broke me a little. I told her I was sorry, that I never wanted her to feel alone, but she wasn't really listening anymore. Her words started to twist from sadness to anger again. "You left, Emiliana. You get to have your new life, your new house, your perfect little world with Adon and that dog. And what do I have? Empty walls and rent I can barely pay." I tried to tell her I could help. Maybe I could send her some money until she found a new job, but that made her angrier. "I don't want your money. I just wanted my friend back." That's when the tears came, quietly, almost without warning. I didn't even realize I was crying until my voice broke. "Leah, you still have me," I said. "Just not like before." There was silence, a long, heavy silence that felt like it might last forever. Then she whispered, "No, I don't." Before I could say anything else, the call ended. I sat there for a long time after that, just staring at the dark window. Odin was asleep at my feet, breathing softly. The house felt so quiet, too quiet, like even the air had stopped moving. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Leah. I shouldn't have said all that. I just can't stop thinking about how everything changed. "I'm sorry." I typed out a reply. "It's okay. We'll figure it out." But I never sent it. Something in my gut told me that nothing I said would make it right anymore. The next morning, I got a call from Oakley, my old neighbor. Her voice was shaky. She asked if I had talked to Leah the night before. I said yes, and she went quiet for a second before saying, "Emiliana, I don't want to scare you, but the police were here this morning. There was an incident at your old house." My heart dropped. My hands started shaking. "What happened?" I asked, but my voice barely came out. Oakley hesitated. "They said Leah had an argument with someone last night. A neighbor heard yelling, then a loud crash. When they checked this morning, she was gone. The house was empty. Her stuff, her clothes, everything. Just gone." I didn't know what to say. Gone. As in moved out. As in disappeared. Oakley said no one knew. Her phone was off. Meredith hadn't seen her. For the next few days, I called her every morning and night. I texted, emailed, even checked her social media. Nothing. Her profile picture vanished. Her posts were deleted. It was like she'd erased herself. Part of me wanted to believe she just needed space. Maybe she packed her things and went to stay with a friend. Maybe she just didn't want to talk. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Leah wasn't the type to just walk away without a word. A week later, I drove by the old house. The blinds were drawn, the porch light off. I stood in the driveway, staring at the empty windows, feeling that same heaviness in my chest, only worse this time. As I turned to leave, I noticed something taped to the front door, a small envelope, my name written on the front. Inside, there was a single note. The handwriting was hers, rushed, uneven. "I'm sorry, Emiliana. I tried to be better, but I couldn't. Please don't come looking for me. Take care of Odin. He deserves you more than anyone ever could." That was it. No explanation. No goodbye. Just that. I stood there for a long time, reading it over and over, hoping maybe it meant something else. But it didn't. Leah was gone. The police said they'd file a missing person report, but there wasn't much they could do. She was an adult, and she had clearly chosen to leave on her own. Now it's been a month since that night. Her number is still disconnected. No one's seen her. The house has been rented to someone new. You're not the AITA, Emiliana, not even close. You did what anyone decent would have done in a hard situation, and you handled it with way more calm than most people could have. You trusted someone you cared about with something important. You gave clear instructions, and when things started going sideways, you didn't yell or throw blame. You tried to make it right. That's not being controlling, that's being responsible. Leah, on the other hand, clearly had a lot going on inside that she never talked about. Her frustration wasn't really about Odin or even about you moving out. It was about her feeling feeling left behind. You were moving forward, building a new life, and she was stuck in the same place, watching it happen. That kind of thing can twist a friendship when someone already feels lost. You didn't abandon her. You just set a boundary. You weren't cruel. You were careful. And honestly, the fact that you still worried about her, even after everything that happened, says a lot about your heart. The note she left was sad, but it wasn't your fault. She made her choices, and it's clear she cared about you, even if she couldn't show it in a healthy way. My take: you did everything right that you could. Maybe you overthought a few things. Maybe you held on to guilt you didn't deserve, but that's what people with empathy do. They care, even when it hurts. So yeah, you're not the AITA. You were just a good friend caught in a bad situation with someone who wasn't okay inside. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments, and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out AITA for leaving my party after finding out my parents lied. Click here to watch it now.